Good morning, everyone. Delightful to be here and delightful to be invited to be here. I thank Ambassador Conks for her invitation. I was told last night that it translates into the English word king. So I have not often spoken in the presence of a king. And as you can see, it is a delightful sunny day in Ottawa, which of course we regard as a fulfillment of a platform commitment to have sunny ways here in Ottawa. Yeah. I am addressing you on behalf of Minister Sajjan, who is unable to be here. He launched our defense policy review yesterday in Vancouver, which, as I can determine from the variety of interventions today, is a topic at the top of everyone's list. Today's discussions will examine ways that the EU and Canada can cooperate in global crisis management, and it is due to the bond that exists between our peoples that we are able to cooperate so well. We may be over an ocean and 3,000 kilometers away, but the bonds are deep, they are cultural, they are economic, and the defense ties are extremely strong. The Canada-EU relationship is solid because we share common values, which are inextricably linked. Canada, of course, fought in the two world wars. When we emerged from the First World War, we were a nation largely independent of Great Britain. We declared war in the Second World War autonomously, and by war's end, Canada had the third largest navy in the world. We went on to sever many of our formal legal ties with the mother country. However, we kept one, namely the Queen, because we like her. Many of us can trace our ancestry back to Europe, myself included. And that is it's not just fate that has brought us together. We've worked to develop these partnerships in a genuine effort to engage in productivity and friendship. We have had a dynamic bilateral relationship since 1959, and as you well know, this is the 40th anniversary of that relationship. I attended with the ambassador and a lot of my MP and senator colleagues the celebration at the Rideau Club attended by the Prime Minister. And of course, in the spirit of diplomatic entente, you let us win hockey games and we let you win football games. So in that spirit, I thought I would show that I am possibly a true European. It still has the sweat on it. But it was very generous of you to let us win that game. I think probably some goal even bounced in off my head. As you know, there will be other symposia through the year. I'm happy, of course, to note that the CETA agreement has been largely concluded. As Canada is one of the world's foremost trading nations, we, of course, prefer to negotiate our trade relationships and rely upon the rule of law rather than the rule of might. CETA goes a long way to establishing those formal relationships. Going along with that is the signing of the Strategic Partnership Agreement, the SPA, and Canada looks forward to the ratification of it later on this year. It is interesting that both the trade relationship and the security relationship are likely going to be signed in the same year. And of course, the two are inextricably linked. It is naive to think that one can have good trade relationships without a good security environment. The SPA identifies mechanisms that deepen and broaden our dialogue and cooperation with EU member states. It will increase at a high level consultations in multilateral forums at the United Nations, the OECD, NATO, and the OSCE. More specifically, the SPA reflects our shared fundamental values and facilitates our coordinated action in mutual areas such as pluralism, human rights, scientific research, climate change, and clean energy. And in particular, I want to note the efforts of the German ambassador last year, who facilitated a visit by some of us over to Germany to see the Intervig program in Germany, to see an amazing demonstration how the German nation has committed itself to alternate energy generation, and also to reflect upon the commitment of the Germans and the EU generally to the success at Paris. And I would have to say, Ambassador, your efforts were well rewarded, and I appreciate, as a then member of the third party, the effort to reach out and show to us what was actually going on in Germany, and Chancellor Merkel's commitment to both Paris and just last week New York. Furthermore, the SPA will enhance cooperation on fronts that are most important to the Minister of Defense and I, namely combating terrorism and promotion of international peace and security. The last point is especially important. Continuing our joint efforts to strengthen transatlantic security and defense is of utmost importance. Our global environment is more complex than ever and changing rapidly. For those of you who are intimately associated with Paris and Brussels and mass migration, I think the issue of peace and security is in very sharp focus. The SPA will facilitate continued dialogue between Canada and the EU on global security issues. It will introduce emerging areas of discussion in international security and defense, such as cybersecurity, development, and counterterrorism. I understand that to meet the current challenges to global security, the EU has embarked on a review of its security strategy. I was at a NATO conference yesterday, hosted by the Polish Embassy at the Monk Center in the lead up to the Warsaw Conference. NATO, of course, is one of the EU's major guarantors of security. And of course, there is going to be intense discussions about the expectations of all of the partner nations in Warsaw. Here in Canada, we're doing something similar. As I said, yesterday the Minister was in Vancouver launching our review of our defense policy. We expect a lot from our military. But it is appropriate after 20 years that we actually conduct a defense review. And it is even more appropriate that we ask Canadians what they expect from our military. It is, after all, their security, and it is, after all, their tax dollars. So over the course of the next number of months, in a variety of forms, we will be conducting this defense review, and hopefully that too will bring our defense and security issues into sharper focus. We also need to make sure that in that defense review we remain interoperable with our allies. That is why Canada has cooperated with the EU through the Common Security and Defence Policy, or CSDP. The CSDP has allowed Canada to partner with the EU in international missions to further our common goals. Since 2003, Canada has sent military and civilian personnel to numerous CSDP missions in places like Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Last month, I accompanied Minister Sajjan on a trip to Ukraine, Poland, and Germany. We met with our defense allies and counterparts and saw some of the work recently among our deployed troops in the region. I would like to assure everyone that Canada remains committed to supporting Ukraine in its efforts to advance as a stable and prosperous democracy. The Ukrainian soldiers are tough and able. It is not an understatement to say that their resolve, combined with NATO training, has turned them into a formidable force and possibly, just possibly, stopped Mr. Putin in his tracks in what otherwise might have been a cakewalk through the Ukraine. And we might, instead of looking at a frozen conflict in the east, be looking at something far more close to European borders. And it's a lot of simple things that our people were training the soldiers in. Scott Bishop and I, Admiral Scott Bishop and I were watching this demonstration of Canadian medics training Canadian soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers on how to care for the injured. Previously it was, well, you threw the guy in the back of the truck and if he was still alive by the time you got to the hospital, well, good for him. Our people were training the Ukrainian soldiers on proper medical techniques so that he had a much better chance of being alive when he got to ultimately to the hospital. And we were told that the cut in casualty rates just by that simple training was something in the order of somewhere at 30 to 40%. So it seems simple, but these are the kinds of things that are very important if in fact we are to have a serious security issue in Ukraine. We believe in a firm and united response, including sanctions, to ensure that Russia fully adheres to the Minsk Agreement, and we've put in place some tangible signs of our support for the Ukraine bilaterally and multilaterally. In January, we signed with the European Union Advisory Mission that we will see the strengthening of local Ukrainian police forces. It's a great opportunity for Canadian police officers to share their expertise with their Ukrainian counterparts, to share best practices for community policing and policing reform. More broadly, Canada has been operating in the Eastern Europe as part of NATO assurance measures to promote security and stability in Central and Eastern Europe. Our military personnel are conducting exercises and training with local forces in Poland and the broader region. This helps the CAF enhance its interoperability with key allies, as I witnessed in our visit to Poland's Swindon military base in March. And just as importantly, we are letting Eastern Europeans know that Canada stands with them. Last year, we conducted naval operations in the Mediterranean, the Baltic Sea, and the Black Sea. We have engaged with Russia. The new government has engaged with Russia, and I have to say that there is some worry that we have attempted to reach out with Russia. In fact, yesterday at the NATO conference, of course, attended by a number of people from Eastern Europe, and one woman came up to me and said, aren't you just simply appeasing the Russians by talking to them? And I said to her, on the contrary, it's very important to continue on the dialogue. And I meant to, but wanted to, but I will quote to you Sir Winston Churchill, who said to yak is a lot better than to war. And if anybody knew something about war, it was Winston Churchill. I've seen the positive work in the region firsthand and fully recognize its importance. Prime Minister Trudeau has declared his commitment to renew our active participation in international peace support operations, whether through the United Nations, NATO, or in cooperation with the EU. Our renewed military engagement in Iraq entails greater risk for our troops, but it is actually more conducive to establishing lasting peace and security on the ground. We are assisting with military training in Romania and the Ukraine, and this summer we'll join other allies in the region in military exercises. We will hold true to our commitment to our EU partners. In conclusion, the Canada-EU relationship is strong and constantly evolving, and Canada remains committed to working with the EU to strengthen our joint efforts in international crisis management, capacity building, global peace and security. We support our transatlantic ties, and that support is unequivocal. We are partners, we are allies, and we are friends. I know that the Canada-EU bond will only get stronger as we move forward and face future defense and security challenges together. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your attention. And now can I take this shirt off? Yeah.